All right, so we need to talk about what I think is one of the lamest excuses for not paying attention to the UAP subject, especially as Christians. Now, this is something you probably run into. I know that this is the second time I have had somebody say this to me, like from another Christian. And I think I've heard about other people saying this too, because we all wonder, like a lot of us wonder at least, not just Christians, but us in the UFO community, wonder how come people are not paying attention to this. I post about it on my Facebook, just different news topics on this thing, and you would think that someone would be intrigued, interested, like the stigma is gone, government's openly talking about this, there's hearings, and all these high profile people are coming forward and stuff like that, but nobody cares. And I think I've heard people say this too, like, oh yeah, my friends just say, oh, they're too busy, or they speculate like why people don't care to talk about it. So I want to talk about this for a little bit. Now, I did post about something else I want to make a video about. So Todd Friel, Wretched Radio, I have mad respect for those guys. They've done great work in evangelism and just whatever other topics they cover on their show, Wretched Radio. But their latest video, last time I checked anyway, it's a couple days old now, but their latest video was on the UAP topic. And it was about 20 minutes long. They did not do a great job, and it just reinforces a lot of things that I've been saying about how Christians cover this topic. But I want to save that for another video. But that was the content of my post, and then one of my friends commented. Now, when I post about this, like 99% of the time, nobody even reacts, like likes a post or whatever. I just get nothing. But this time, my friend said something here, and I just wanted to address the bottom part first. He says, "Can you please stop trying to shame everyone into sharing your concern with them? No one is less of a Christian or less of a ministry for not focusing on this." Now, to defend myself a little bit, I wasn't even making it about that at all. I was sharing a little bit of my frustration with how the Christian community responds to this topic by not caring at all about it. So no, I wasn't coming against anyone. And by the way, I did block out his name and his picture. I'm not coming against him either. Like, if for some super rare chance that somebody knows who this is, or if he himself watches this video, not coming against him at all. I'm just using this as an example because it's happened before. And yeah, so a typical excuse is that people don't pay attention to the subject because they're too busy. And let's just read what he says. He says, "Brother, I know you're very passionate about this, but honestly, I don't really have any interest in it." Now, that's even one step further, saying that he has no interest in it. But I'll get to why that doesn't make sense as well. He says, "Be it angels, demons, or classified technologies, which it doesn't matter to me. Got enough going on with business and family, and I imagine most also are in the boat of too busy to really care." So even he acknowledges that as well, that's probably the excuse of everybody else. And boy, I wonder, are Christians just that boring that even if you take away all the reasons why we should care about this as Christians specifically, like, when do we lose that desire to search out the universe or be intrigued, be in awe of things that we don't understand? We've gotten so crusty and rigid and just boring as we got older, I think, a lot of us anyway. But anyway, so people say that they're too busy. Now, I think it's not that, because this same person and other people who have said this, or the other person that said this that I alluded to before, using the busy excuse, they have time to read a story, what's going on in the political sphere, and comment on it, and bring out their 2 cents on their own personal Facebook page. Not too busy to do that. And all I do is just try to share stories to update people with what's going on. For the most part, I'm not even giving a call to action. I'm just reporting the news. And it does get frustrating, like I said. You do this over and over again. Like, crazy stories. Not crazy in that I think it's crazy, but just like, wow, that is huge. I mean, just the fact that we had a hearing again on it, and oftentimes people that we elected, like even my friends that we personally elected, like the 2023 and 2024 hearing, like that's our man. He is the one leading it, and like you have no interest. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But to say they're too busy just to like read the story and just acknowledge that okay, something is going on and be a little bit intrigued when you have like thousands of other things that you post about and talk about and concern yourself with, doesn't make any sense to me at all. But I think that a big part of this is because they don't even know what's going on, and I try to report it. I don't know if part of it is a stigma that they still have, but how are you not interested as a United States citizen, not even getting into the Christian part of it, that these things are in our airspace with impunity and are able to go to our top military bases with impunity, and they can't be stopped? You don't care about that? You don't care that it has been reported that these things can turn on and turn off nuclear capabilities. You don't care about that. Like, you don't have any interest in that at all. Now, if it was a terrorist group, let's say, and of course that would be all over the news, came into our airspace and, you know, we knew it was like either a terrorist group or some other adversary nation, you know, let's just say China or something, you're not going to care, you're going to care. You're going to be sharing your thoughts all over Facebook. But this is actually happening, and, you know, it's, as far as we can tell, and good reason to believe, it's not an adversary nation. You know, it's been doing this for decades and decades and decades. And you don't care about technology rivaling ours. You don't care about that? That doesn't make any sense. Of course you care about that. Why wouldn't you? And then there's aspects of the people that we voted in as, you know, conservative Christians or Republicans or whatever, who are lying about this or speaking up about this. Hold on 1 second. You don't care that Donald Trump lied to the American people about the drone situation, even if it's human technology, whatever. You don't care about that? You don't want to hold these people accountable? That's kind of cultish. You don't care about the technologies that probably exist, about being able to do fast travel, or having free energy or much more efficient energy. Yeah, right. I don't believe you don't care about that. But when you're a Christian, you know, and then also like the murders that have taken place, people's lives being destroyed, military people that deserve our respect not being heard or having their lives destroyed by the government, you know, all the corruption that comes with the government on this topic. You don't care about that, you're saying. No, I think you do care. If it was a different subject and it was in the news, you would be commenting on it. Guaranteed. But when you're a Christian, and there's probably a bunch of other things I'm skipping because, you know, I'm not as great at talking off the cuff. I actually did write a response to him, and it was getting kind of lengthy. I eventually just cut it out and did not reply. I think I talked more about, you know, people super high up in government, Marco Rubio, Trump's right-hand man now, his comments on this subject and others. You don't care about that. That's very odd. If it was a different subject, yeah, they would care. And they would have the time. They're not too busy to read a story. You know, you had time to reply to my post. You know, you just read the headline of the things I post, or whoever wants to share the information. Just acknowledge that, okay, this is important. Now, when you're a Christian, that changes everything because of the obvious spiritual implications of this. Now, what I'll talk about in another video, one of the things that Christians often get this wrong in communicating it is they only go the route of apologetics in that, oh, this is a topic that only exists because the world wants to prove that evolution occurred on other planets. And they just end it there. Not talking about testimony, Not talking about the real world things that are going on right here, but just talk about, oh, we spent all this money trying to find life on other planets. And, because they want to support their worldview, that evolution occurred elsewhere. And that's as far as they get, and that's what Wretched Radio did. And honestly, they did a really bad job with it. And again, I'll explain that in another video more fully. But, and this guy right here that commented, he did that once. The only other time he really addressed this topic, he tagged me in the post. And again, no disrespect for him or anything like that, but it was just saying oh, how impossible it would be. He's trying to be all smart and scientific for beings to travel from one place to here, with our laws of physics, and therefore this whole thing is bunk. Okay, that so dismisses the issue. I mean, it's so old school to just approach this from an evolutionary standpoint. I mean, I understand to some extent, but we're past that. Much of the theory, the dying theory is that they came elsewhere, but the more acceptable theory is that they were always here, and they were here for a long time. And even if it was just the last 80 years, yeah, okay. Who believes that they traveled from another star system just so they can play hide and seek with us for 80 years? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I just wish we were more thoughtful about this, and we understood the issues. It really bothered me. I'll get into this in another video, but bothered me so much on the Wretched Radio 20-minute thing that they did. They showed a clip of that bombshell video in the last hearing with no context. That was the Hellfire missile shooting that something. They're talking about balloons. They're trying, and that's again the apologetic approach to this. Let's just try to describe it away, debunk it away. We forget that there's a spiritual aspect. We forget what our Bibles talk about, and that's the part that just drives me up the wall. But yeah, they show that clip. No context whatsoever. They're just talking about balloons, and they show that clip. Nothing. They have no understanding where that came from. You as the viewer, and this is a big ministry, gets a lot of eyeballs. And unfortunately, this is all that Christians have. Big ministry talks about it. Oh, it's just balloons. It's always a big party somewhere, or, a clown is somewhere just letting these balloons go, and that's what we think it is, or car lights off in the distance. And they don't even talk about the hearings or the people who are coming forward. None of that. Or experiencers who are having, things happen. It's just void of that, and I think it's a huge disgrace. But they show that video, no context, and there's a lot of context to that video, guys. But anyway, trying to debunk this away is ridiculous, because it just shows they don't understand the issue. But you mean to say you don't care that, we as Christians are supposed to be the first on the scene to any big issue, especially one that's inherently spiritual like this is. This isn't some small thing that only one or two people might be involved with. This is growing, guys, and disclosure might happen, and the Christian should be the first on the scene to provide insight on it, to give a biblical response, and just not the whole stupid, it's just evolution of our planets that we're going to try to debunk. Okay, that's not even the issue. Most people believe that these are either interdimensional, spiritual, or future humans, or people, or things that lived here for much longer than us, or whatever. There's all kinds of theories, but it's not just that they came from other planets. Who even believes that anymore? Not many. Maybe Stephen Greer. I have some issues with him, but he might be the only one who says that they're elsewhere and everything else is man-made stuff, mankind doing evil things like abducting people and stuff like that. That's what he says, but whatever. So you don't care about that. You don't care about the spiritual implications. You don't care about the implications of consciousness, because that is very much wrapped up in this. You don't care that the number one podcast on the planet for a time, if not still is the telepathy tapes. That's gaining a lot of steam, and it has a lot of cross connection to the UAP topic, a lot. You don't care that we're able to summon beings, military technology, look at Jake Barber's story, or have people with abilities to summon these things, that they're doing a peer review thing on it right now on their terabytes of data that they've collected over the year. You don't care about that. You don't care about the deception that could potentially take place. You don't care about government corruption. You don't care about you know, the technologies from it that could better mankind, you know, and we can have that discussion as well. I mean, there's so many things. Again, it's off the top of my head, but there's a lot more in that. And once I stop this video and be like, oh shoot, I should have said this, I should have said that. But the underlying thing though is that, like, you don't have an interest, you don't have time when you have time to post about everything else. And I'm just, you know, asking to pay attention. There's something else going on. I don't know what that is, like why people, you know, are so dismissive over it. I mean, we above anybody else should be able to acknowledge that there's a spiritual world out there. The world is more than just stuff. The world is more than just stuff, and we seem to be the ones that fail the most at that. And unfortunately, the world is gonna fill in the blank. You know, we're not there to properly assess it, give information to the world on this, a biblical response, because we're too busy, supposedly. But we can talk about, you know, every other political thing under the sun. So, I don't know, guys. Let me know what you think. I could just ramble on. And again, there's probably 1,000 things I want to say more than this, but I just can't think of it at the moment. But let me know what you think.